All right, so we are going to start out with I want to go over the final exam schedule. So all of this starts on January 10th. Today is the 9th. So um, we're gonna review for Monday, and Monday consists of fifth period, seventh period, eighth period. So we will be reviewing for those three periods, fifth, seventh, um, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. For January 10th is our first final exam schedule. And so first period on January 10th will not be an exam day, it'll be a review. So we will review Monday, and then we will review as we progress into exam schedule week. So we'll review on Monday for fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth period. On January 10th, we'll review for first and third period. On January 11th, we'll review for fifth and seventh period. And so on those 10th and 11th days, we'll also take our exam for second period. We'll take our exam for fourth period. And then on that B day on the 11th, we'll take our exam for sixth period. We'll take our exam on eighth period. And then the 12th and the 13th are going to be half days. So um, we will have reviewed on the 10th um, for first period, and then on the 12th, we will take our exam from 7:15 to 8:45. And then the same thing for fifth period. Fifth period, we will have reviewed on the 11th, and then fifth period, we will have that exam on the 12th, and then kind of the same thing for the 13th. So I want to kind of lay out how everything will go for exams, remind you of everything. And so we'll do the majority of our review on Monday. And if your period doesn't fall on that B day, then we'll try to we'll finish review on that following Tuesday and Wednesday for first, third, fifth, and seventh period. We'll finish that review, and then every other day we'll have those exams. So really quick, I wanted to go over the schedule, but more importantly, I wanted to do a semester review, so that way you're prepared for your exam. Let's see. So typical questions that you'll get. Uh, Remember, it is accumulative. Um, so that just means that everything that you've learned so far in this course is kind of what's going to be covered on the exam. So first question, say, let's see, what is a solution? What is the solution? What is the solution to the equation 64 divided by 7 x equals 8? So we're going to start out with something extremely simple, and then we'll get more complex as we go through the exam. Sorry, give me a second so I can get set up. All right. What is the solution to the equation 64 over 7 times x, letting that equal, letting that be equal to 8, what would x have to be if we're finding the solution? So we're trying to figure out what x is. To figure out what x is, all we have to do is get it by itself. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to multiply by 7. Remember that if I have 7, that's going to be 7 over 1, 64 times 7 times x. Remember, when coefficients are next to variables, that means that we're just multiplying them. 8 times 7. The reason I included fractions because I just want to remind you the basic steps of algebra, how we do everything. So when you multiply, you just go straight across. 7 times 64, and then 1 times 7, 1 times 7. And the reason I did it like this is because we know anything over itself is going to be 1. So when I multiply by 7, it gets rid of that fraction. When I multiply by 7, it gets rid of the denominator, which was 7. I'm left with 64 over 1, which is just 64. And then I'm left with 64x equal to 8 times 7. 8 times 7 is 56, I believe. Eight times 7 is 56, I believe. Yes, okay. And then to get x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 64. 64 divided by 64 just itself is going to be 1. I'm left with x. 56 divided by 64. Now, remember, we have to simplify. 56 and 64 are both divisible by 8. If I divide the top by 8, I'm left with 7. If I divide the bottom by 8, I'm left with 8. And that should be my answer. X is equal to 7 over 8. So when we had this was our question. (64 over 7 times x is equal to 8. We multiply both the left and the right side by 7 to get rid of the fraction. Then once we get rid of the fraction, we can divide both sides by 64 to get x by itself. Hopefully everyone, hopefully this is just a refresher, and we kind of remember some of the things that we learned in the beginning of the semester. One of the questions will be y to the 4th power. So y to the 4th power, it's asking to evaluate when y is equal to -2. Evaluate when y is equal to -2. When we have the y, we know what y equals. What we're just doing is we're plugging in y for -2. So we have -2 to the 4th power, and all that is -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. Remember, negative times a negative is a positive, so that's 4. Same thing here. 4 times 4, positive 16. So to evaluate, when y is equal to -2, you plug it in. I don't know. Sorry, I had a timer going and couldn't stop it. So when we're evaluating y to the fourth power, evaluate when y equals -2, plug in -2 for y, multiply it by itself 4 times, or you can um, help yourself with the use of a calculator if you need to, but the answer would have been +16. Let's see, third question is asking to simplify. So you have y plus 5 minus -8y plus -11. And all it's wanting you to do is simplify. So trying to see where we can simplify like terms if we can, or distribute or multiply things. There's nothing to multiply, but because we have a negative and a negative, that does make a positive. So this is going to be 3y plus 5 plus 8y. And then we have plus minus a number, that's just going to be minus 11. Then we can combine like terms. We have y's right there. And then we have whole numbers right there. So 3y plus 8y is going to be 11y. 5 minus 11 is going to be -6. 11y minus 6, and that's going to be our answer. That's going to be combining like terms. If we continue, we have another question. 3x minus 4. So kind of the same thing. All it's asking is to evaluate or simplify. 3x minus 4 times x minus 4 is equal to 12. Equal to 12. So first thing that we do is we multiply inside our parentheses. 3x minus 4x plus 16, that's going to be equal to 12. Then just like last time, we're going to combine like terms. The two terms that I can combine are the variables. 3x minus 4x, that's going to be -x plus 16 equal to 12. And then if I'm solving for x, I'm going to move 16 from the left to the right. -x is equal to -4. Remember that even though x is by itself, I can't leave it as negative, so I'm going to multiply both by -1. So x equal to +4. That's if we evaluate. Sometimes the question will ask as simple as which is equivalent. So you started out with this right here. 3x minus 4 times x minus 4 is equal to 12. Sometimes it will just ask which is equivalent. So all it really wants you to do is multiply things out. Remember, when you have that negative coefficient in front of the parentheses, that you have to distribute the negative. So it was -4 times x, -4 times -4. So sometimes it'll ask you to solve, sometimes it will just ask what is equivalent. Let's see, another question on the review is there's nothing to turn in today. I just want to go over this review with everyone, so that way you are prepared for when you take your exam. Okay, so it's asking what is the solution to this equation? So to find the solution, we need to get h by itself. We are first going to distribute inside the parentheses, multiply 6 by the two terms. Same thing here, multiply 3 times the two terms. I know 6 times 2 is going to be 12. 6 times -7 is going to be -42. 3 times 5 is going to be 15. h 3 times -4 is going to be -12. Get h by itself. I'm going to move the 12 because I know if I move the 15 over to the left, it's going to be a negative number, and I want to keep my variable positive. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. I get -42 equal to 3h minus 12. To get h by itself, I'm going to add 12 to both sides. This cancels. I'm left with -3h. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. That's my answer. Remember, if I divide 3 by 3h, I just get 1. If I divide 3 by 30, I'm sorry, 30 by 3, I'm going to get -10. All right, so switching it up just a little bit. So we were just dealing with equations, finding like terms, how to get x by itself, solving for x. Another thing that you might be asked is, let's say that you're given 6, 10 and 3, 4. And then it's asking so if you're given 6, 10 and 3, 4, and it's asking what is the y-intercept. So if we're going to find the y-intercept, we need to know two things. You need to know your slope formula. So how do you find slope? You find slope by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's how you find slope. And then you have your y equals mx plus b. So this is how equations are typically set up. Linear equations are set up. Y equals mx plus b, where we know that m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So if we have 2 points, what we can do is we can find our slope. Once we find our slope, then we have a number to put right here for the m. We also have points. So because we have points, if we have 6, 10, we can plug in 6 for x, and then we can plug in 6 or 10 for y. We have numbers filled in for our variables, and so we can find that missing b, which is our y-intercept. So we're going to find our slope first. This is going to be x1, y1. This is going to be x2, y2. So then we're going to have y2 minus y1. And then we're going to have x2 minus x1. 4 minus 10 is going to be -6. -3, I'm sorry, 3 minus 6 is going to be -3. Negative divided by a negative is positive. I'm just going to get +2 out of this. So I have y equals 2x plus b. I still don't know what my y-intercept is, but what we can do, like we said earlier, is that we can plug in one of these points. It doesn't matter which one. But if we plug in 6, 10 for our equation, 10 for y, 6 for x plus b, Then I can solve for b. 2 times 6 is going to be 12. I get b by itself. Subtract 12 from both sides. I'm left with -2 is equal to b. And that's going to be my y-intercept, -2. Similar question that you might see on your final exam is y equals -2x plus 1. And it's going to ask, you have A, you have B, C, and D. And it's going to ask which ordered pairs are solutions to the equation. So you're going to have -2, 3. You're going to have -3, 5. You're going to have -2, 5. You're going to have 3, 7. So the way that we find the answer to this one is asking which ordered pair is a solution. All you're going to do is plug in your ordered pairs for x and y and see if it makes it true. So for A, let's do this in a different color. For letter A, you're going to have 3 for your y. You're going to have -2 times -2 plus 1. So we're trying to figure out, is this true? 3 is equal. I know -2 times -2 is going to be +4. +4 plus 1. 3 does not equal 5. And then we'll keep going. Same thing again for letter B. We're going to have 5 equal to -2 times -3 plus 1. This is going to be 5 equal to 6 plus 1 does not equal 7. And then same thing here. 5 equal -2 times -2 plus 1. That should be the answer. -2 times -2 is going to be +4. +4 plus 1 is, in fact, 5. So we know that that's true. And so that would be our answer. Some problems in your homework involve steps. So asking which step is incorrect. So if you're asked solve 3 times x plus 1 minus 4, let that equal to 2. And then step 1, trying to solve. Step 1, let's say it has 3x plus 3 minus 4 equal to 2. Step 2, 3x plus 1 equals 2. Step 3, 3x is equal to 1. Step 4, x equals 1 over 3. So the question will ask which step, A, B, C, or D, is the first incorrect step. So if we have 3 times x plus 1 minus 4 equal -2, the first step is distribute inside the parentheses. So that first step is 3x plus 3 minus 4 equals 2. And that is true. When I multiply 3 times x, 3 times 1, I get 3x plus 3, and then I rewrite the rest of it. Step B, or step 2, all you do is combine the like terms. So the like terms were the whole numbers on the left side of the equal sign. 3, I'm combining 3 and 4. The only thing is because that 4 had a minus sign in front, I should have a -1 right here. So this would be our answer, because it should be 3x minus 1 is equal to 2. So sometimes you'll be asked which step is incorrect. You'll also have a couple of questions about inequalities. So inequalities kind of represent a number line. Inequalities in with one variable is just going to be a normal number line. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 2. And I might need to change that in a little bit, but all you're trying to do is, if you're trying to do solutions for your inequality, you're trying to get x by itself. So let's worry about the number line later. X by itself, the way we do that is we subtract 8 from both sides. So you have -2x less than, and then 12 minus 8, that's going to be +4. Then, to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by -2. Now, anytime that you divide or you multiply by a negative number, you have to switch the inequality sign. So -2 divided by -2 is 1. I have x by itself. But because I divided by a -2, I need to switch my inequality sign. 4 divided by -2 is just -2. And this would be my answer. So that's my written inequality. If I were to represent this on a number line, so just like a graph, if you're graphing this, you have 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay, so because it's less than, it's not less than or equal to, we're going to start at -2. We're going to leave that circle open. If there was an equal sign underneath our inequality, then we would shade in that circle. But because we do not, we're not going to shade it in. And then we're looking to see which side is going to make the inequality true. So if x is going to be greater than -2, what does x have to be? Well, it has to be any number that's bigger than -2. So that means that it can be -1, because -1 is bigger than -2. It can be 0. It can be 1. It can be 2. It can be 3. It can be 4, 5, and it goes on forever. Any number. It can be 100. It can be 200, 1,000. Inequalities, just like equations, when you're trying to solve, you're trying to figure out which one is going to make it true. Well, in inequalities, there are ranges of numbers that can make an inequality true. So that's inequalities. Back to evaluating x equals 4. So the difference in the question that we have here, so all it's asking for you to do is evaluate. So all you're going to do is plug in 4 for x. You're going to see what you get when you have -x². Now, the only thing about the difference that we had earlier was y to the 4th -2. The negatives are switched. So y equals -2. And so we're plugging this in to our y. Now the difference is that there is already a negative out in front. So when we plug in for x, that negative will stay there. So the difference will be, if I plug in 4 for x, it's going to be 4 squared, which is going to be 16. And then that's just going to equal negative 16. So anytime that negative is in front of my variable and I'm plugging in something, it'll stay a negative. Anytime I'm plugging in a negative number for a variable, then I'm going to multiply that variable times itself, and whether it's positive or negative, it's going to be a positive number. So be careful when you're evaluating with negatives in your variables and in your numbers when you start to plug in for stuff. Another inequality, 6x minus 8 greater than 4x plus 3. Again, we're trying to get x by itself, so we're going to add 8 here. We're going to add 8 here. 6x greater than 4x plus 11. Still trying to get x by itself, so we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. We don't switch the sign because we are just subtracting. You only switch the sign if you are multiplying or dividing. So I'm left with 2x greater than 11, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So x can be any number that is greater than 11 over 2. Let's go to here. We're on number 13. All right, so number 13 says if your cell phone plan costs $30 each month and 20 cents per minute, which equation would determine how many minutes are used in April if your total bill was $45.60? And this can kind of be set up as a kind of a y equals mx plus b, where you have an initial amount. So your plan costs $30 each month, and then you're going to pay $20, 20 cents a minute. So what is our variable? Our variable is m, which represents minutes. So you're going to multiply how many minutes you use on the phone times 20 cents. So we're looking for any equation that has 0.20 times m, and that is a, and that's b. Then we're trying to set up an equation, and so if we have our variable m, which is minutes, and we know that how many ever minutes we spend on the phone is going to charge us 20 cents. And it's going to charge us that in addition to the $30 a month for the phone plan. And so to find m, if you know that your bill was $45.60, then everything should be equal to $45.60. And so our answer should be B. We have that 0.20 times m plus 30. That's all going to be equal to 45.60. And then you can get m by itself to figure out how many minutes you would have used if your bill totaled $45.60. So for 13, the answer was B. For 13, the answer was B. For 14, it's asking what is the x-intercept for the equation 5x plus 3y is equal to negative 15. Five x plus 3y. So it's asking what the x-intercept is. We talked about the x-intercept being any time that my y is equal to 0. So we don't know what our x is, but if this is x and this is y. And the reason we know that our y equals 0. So if it's going to be on the x-axis, and this is our y-axis, it's going to be somewhere on here. Our x-intercept is going to be somewhere on here. We know that. So we know that if this is 1, -1, -2, 2, we know that our x-intercept is going to be on the x-axis, and the x-axis as a ordered pair is going to have a 0 as a y. So for this equation that we're given, to find our x-intercept, all we have to do is set y equal to 0. X plus 3y. We're trying to figure out what x is when our y is equal to 0. And then we get x by itself to figure out what the other side of that ordered pair is. Anything times 0 is just going to be 0. 5x equal to -15. Divide both sides by 5. X is equal to -3. Let's see. Next question is, which line in the graph of 6x plus 4y is equal to 12? The best way to find this is to put this into y equals mx plus b. So it's easy to graph y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. And then if we're given 6x plus 4y equal to 12, all we have to do is get y by itself. That's how we get y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. I get 4y minus 6x plus 12. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. It's going to be y equals, I'm going to keep it a fraction, but it's going to be -3 on top, 2 on bottom, and then 12 divided by 4 is just going to be plus 3. So going back to, going back to our graphs. So we know that the y-axis is going to be 3. So if our not our y-axis, our y-intercept is going to be 3. So +3. We're looking for places to where it has a point at +3. It doesn't have one there. +3 doesn't have one there, but it does have one on B and D. So the difference is I have to find the slope. The slope here is going down 1, 2, 3, and then over 2. So that's 3 over 2. And then for D, it's going down 2 and over 1, 2, 3. So the difference for B, the slope for that graph for letter B is going to be -3 over 2. The slope for D is going to be -2 over 3. And we have -3 over 2, so our answer should be B. 3 over 2, so you're going down 3 over 2. For number 16, it's asking what is the slope and the y-intercept of the line 3x plus 5y is equal to 8. Again, you're just moving that into slope-intercept form. 3x plus 5y is equal to 8. Trying to get y by itself, I'm going to subtract 3x, 5y equals -3x plus 8. Divide both sides by 5. We're going to keep everything a fraction because that's how our answers are set up in. So we're looking for negative 3 over 5x plus 8 over 5. Negative 3 over 5x, and then 8 over 5. It should be C as our answer. Let's see. I'm gonna skip 17 and 18 because you shouldn't see any questions like that. Number 19 is just asking what is the x-intercept of the graph? So where does it cross the x-axis? The x-axis is the one that goes horizontal from left to right. So with those, the x-axis on the x and y ordered plane, so it crosses right around here, and that is 2. So it's going to the right 2. It's not negative 2 because if it was negative 2, it would go to the left. Remember that if you're going to the right, it's positive. If you're going to the left, it's going to be negative. If you're going up for your y, it's going to be positive. If you're going down for your y, it's going to be negative. So our answer for number 19 would be positive 2. For number 20, it's asking which graph belongs, which of the graphs is represented by the inequality y greater than or equal to 2x minus 1. And so if you notice, all of the graphs are exactly the same. The only difference is they're either solid lines, dashed lines, or it's shaded above or below. And so if you have the inequality y equals 2x minus 1. What you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out, you would graph it like you usually do, and you have to understand your signs. So if it's a greater than or just a less than sign, your line is going to be dashed. If your signs are greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, your line is going to be solid. We talked about number lines earlier. Remember, we have 0, 1, -1. If x is going to be greater than 0, remember that it's going to be any number that's bigger than 0. So 1, 2, 3, whatever. If it was x is greater than or equal to 0, then it would include everything. It would include where it starts. So if we look at our question that we have, y greater than or equal to 2x minus 1, we know that because our sign is greater than or equal to, our line is going to be dashed, or I'm sorry, solid. So our answer is either going to be A or C. Now for above or below, you have to find a point. If you find a point, and you can usually choose the origin. So the origin is right above that line, but we'll use, and it doesn't matter which one, but we'll use the point right above the origin. So 1, no, not 1. 0, 1. 0, 1 is going to be right above here, right above here. And so the way that you figure out the way you figure out your shading is if you pick a point. If I pick a point, it's above the line for both of my graphs. And so if I plug that point into my inequality, if it makes it true, then I'm going to shade on that side. If it makes it false, then I'm going to shade on the opposite side. So the point is above those lines. It's above the line. So if it's true, when we plug in 0, 1 into that inequality, if we end up getting a true inequality, our answer would be A. When we plug it in, if the answer is false, when we plug in 0, 1 into the inequality, if it ends up not being true, then our answer would be C. So we're plugging in this for x and y. Y is equal to 1. It's greater than or equal to 2 times 0 minus 1. 2, 0, this 1, 2, -1, and that is in fact true. 1 is greater than or it's equal to -1. That's true. So our answer should be A. 21 says which equation represents a line that passes through the point 5, 2, 5 with a slope of 3 over 2. We know that 3 over 2 is going to be the slope. So you have 3 over 2 in every single answer choice. You're just trying to figure out what your y-intercept is. So if you're trying to figure out your y-intercept, you have y equals mx plus b. You're going to have your slope. And there, we know that the point passes through 2, 5. So we're going to plug in 5 for y, 3 over 2 for our slope, 2 for x, plus b. We're trying to figure out what b is. So you have 5 equals 3 over 2 times 2. I'm just going to get rid of the denominator. I'm just going to be left with 3 plus b, subtract 3 from both sides. So my y-intercept is going to be equal to 2. My answer should have been positive 2, so it should be A. So that's just about it for our semester exam review. I'll leave the rest of class time to you. I know that I put last week we had a couple of quizzes. So make sure that if you haven't done those quizzes, that you complete those before you take your final exam. This review should have helped you with the final exam. We will take it in class and it'll be proctored through Google Classroom, and we'll kind of go over instructions the day of. It'll be really simple. Miss Rainey said she's used Google Classroom before, and so it should be very similar to what you've done in the past. So let me know if you have any questions. The rest of class will be for you, but I'll be here if you have any um, if you have any questions about exams or assignments in general, so let me know. But we're done for today as far as the exam review goes.